News Talk 989. It's Dirk Thompson, the mayor of Iosco County and the governor of the four-county area. But we have a real mayor with us today. It's the mayor of Au Gres. We're going to learn a lot about Au Gres and Mayor Mike Hoadly. Mike, it's great to have you here. Now, from one mayor to the other, do you ever get hassled for declaring yourself mayor and claiming you're the mayor of a community like I do and the governor of the four-county area? Does that ever happen?
No, I was actually appointed that, so I wear that title proudly.
Yeah, see, for some reason, since I appointed myself, it's not the same. Now, I'm willing to put you into the four-county area. Would you like that?
Well, from one mayor to the other, I'd like to petition that cause to have Aranet County added to your governorship, if you will.
Well, we're here to talk about Au Gres and see what's great about your community. I always enjoy driving through there, especially visiting Freakin' Pickles. But being the mayor of Au Gres, which is a city, hence your title, mayor, tell us a little bit about Au Gres. A lot of us drive through there all the time and really aren't familiar with the community, and that's what we're all about, is finding community and meeting new friends.
And what we consider Au Gres is probably one of the best kept secrets on the sunshine side, sunrise side. And the reason we don't get probably the attention of, say, Oscoda or even Tawas for that matter, is we're not really considered a lakefront community, although we're a lakeside community. You know, we still are based on recreation, fishing, camping, things of that nature. We primarily, our waterway is the Au Gres River, which leads out to the Saginaw Bay.
The Au Gres River, how many are
out of the Au Gres River? I can't think of any, because no, and that's just it. You hit the terminology correct on that. You know, it goes from a river to a stream fairly quick as you go up, so it's probably not too conducive to a canoe livery. However, what we do have in our new Riverside Park is an ADA accessible kayak launch for enjoying that portion of the river upstream, if you will, towards the campground and all the way out to Lake Huron or the Saginaw Bay. We do not. We do not currently. However, you know, with the cost of kayaks and things like that, it seems to be part of everybody's recreational trailer that's packed up.
Canoes with kayaks,
Yeah. Yeah, now you get one for a couple $100 and it comes with a free life jacket and paddle, right? You know. And you know, some of the laws change on that too, as far as, you know, if it's going out into Lake Huron or the...
I think one of the gems you guys have there in Au Gres is the Christmas setup at the park downtown. We actually pulled off the side of the road and went back to check it out. Just another little hidden gem. How'd you guys end up doing this?
Wow, that is such a phenomenon. It is.
I hadn't heard of it. We thought we heard around.
Yeah, isn't that something? That's a community effort, which in most of our small communities, we rely on community effort, volunteers, people like myself that love our community. That's a project that was a collaboration between the Au Gres Community Events, our Chamber of Commerce, and the City of Au Gres to put that together, and we really do turn the town into a bit of a festive attraction. And what we do is we take our 100-site campground that's right along the river, and we bring in Christmas trees that are free of charge to residents' businesses to decorate those trees, light them up. And yes sir. And there's themes and contests, and we tie that in with a kind of a grand ceremony. That's where we have our Christmas parade. We light up the city all at one time. We run our parade through town that ends at the campground, where we have a ceremonial Christmas lighting. We have Santa and Mrs. Claus out to the park, hot chocolate. The men's club is giving toys to the kids. So it's really a community effort that puts that on. And then, of course, we have that lit up through the whole holiday season, and it's become quite the
Oh, it's
quite the attraction. People come from a long ways away to come through and just drive through that, or you know, we've gotten to the point of taking our dog up there to walk through the park at night when that's all lit up through the winter.
We are going to have to get the Newstalk 98.9 crew down there. We were down in Osceola, and it was just one of those picturesque, like old-fashioned, kind of like.
Norman Rockwell, right?
There you go.
You know,
That's
small town, salt of the earth people, you know, running these communities, and we all still care about each other and know each other's names, and we have a good time.
I just love the small town. I have neighbors that come up and they're like, I was downtown and people waved at me when I was driving by, and someone wanted to talk to me in the store, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's what makes everything beautiful. But they started waving at me. What's up with that?
Right?
or I'm at Walmart. You don't talk to me. And look me in the eye.
Yeah, what's going on? You know, what are they up to? Right?
Well, and my wife and even me, it's like if you're just gonna run down to the store, she's like, I gotta do my hair and maybe brush up my makeup because you might run into somebody you know.
You're going to run into somebody you know, in a small community, and that's what makes us special.
Now, in the Au Gres area, what percentage of the area is full-time residents versus seasonal or tourist? What's the occupancy?
Not a specific handle, but to kind of guess just from association, it's probably a 70-30 percentage. So we do have a fair amount of vacation population that comes through the summer. We also have a couple marinas as well, where, you know, plenty of people live on their boats for the summer, or at least that's their summer weekend cottage is their boat in the slips.
You know, just north of here, we got a quaint little Harrisville harbor. It's picturesque. I'm sure you've seen it, but, you know, there's not that many boats sometimes there that often, so I'm sure that's a resource that is very concerned to you. And are you guys utilizing your marinas and dock space?
Oh, it certainly is, and it really matters to our community too, because I mean, there's several hundred of
You have that many?
Oh, yes.
And then
The campground doesn't have any. However, yeah, the camping lots don't have. How many lots in the campground? Just over 100. And we're looking to expand. We want to put in another 50 lots there. That's how successful the campground has become. And it's. Oh, you got to call ahead and get reservations for that Au Gres campground. And it's.
Right now.
You better get your call in now. That's right. And it's right across from US 23, and we're working right now with grants and other processes to get a nice crossing across 23 at that area. Because I mean, what we've done with that Riverside Park, which was the DNR Port of Refuge there that they abandoned, and the city took that over, and we're building one heck of a nice park there.
Did the DNR trust fund?
Not from that trust fund, but we have taken advantage of things through the USDA and other local grants. The Indian tribe has been very helpful with grants, as well as the Internet Community Funds. Plenty of outreach there to get that done.
So when it comes to grants and funds like this, there's a wide variety of different sources that a government entity could go towards and try to access those funds.
Yes, and so I mean, they're correct in the point that you have to have all these special certifications. You have to have your a lot of your things up to date, like your master plan has to be updated. You have to have certain aspects of that master plan implemented, like emergency response and things like that, to qualify for some of the government grants. And we take special care to make sure that we fit that mold as well.
Is it difficult?
So what is the process of that, going out and searching for? Do you have a outside grant writer, or?
Well, I'm not real familiar with the grant writing process. We have a really good city manager that digs into that, and he's one that's not afraid that when he doesn't know the answer, is reaching out and getting the answer to help the community. Dale Wilsey. He's been a long
Now,
time.
is he a son?
He would be the son of the Wiltses that had the car dealership in Standish for a long time
Okay.
in
One of
Arapahoe
the
County.
brothers, they-
Yes, he does a great
You guys
job for the
hired
city.
grant-
So does Mr. Wilsey get grant writers, or does he do it
He's
himself?
done most of it, and again, he's been really successful at again, if he doesn't know it, he doesn't just, you know, fake his way through it. He'll outreach and try to get it. So we haven't had to outsource the grant writing itself. But being a small community too, is we don't have a whole lot of it. You know, our efforts are usually pretty focused on what we do. You know, that park has been a focus. Yeah, our park has been a very particular focus of ours for, you know, over 5 years now, and it's come along great. I mean, we've got a really nice splash pad there for the children right next to a very large ship playscape, all visible from US 23. We've got a brand new farm market pavilion, which was put in 2 years ago, and now that's thriving. And when you designate things like it's a farm market pavilion, that opens you up to certain avenues of grants, like the USDA. Absolutely. Now,
The apples.
okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, there sure is. I mean, and it's a full-time job to seek it out. But things like that.
Well, and then
Oh,
there's
my.
so many resources that are available out there right now. It's just a matter, literally, of tracking them down and trying to find them. It's a gold mine out there, but you just need, you know, to be able to search around and find it, I guess.
Right. Well, and again, who knows?
Never given out.
Yeah, I mean, who knows they exist? You know, if you don't seek it out, and I mean that's one of the problems in government in general, whether it be local, state, or federal, is information. Getting the information out to the citizen, the voter, as to what's available. I also work with the Aranet County Soldiers and Sailors Board, which is the county-wide division of like the Veterans Administration that helps county-wide veterans with burial costs primarily, the bronze grave markers, and emergency services when veterans and their families can't get other. Soldiers and Sailors Board, and I believe every county should have one specific to their county's veterans' needs. Well, see, exactly, and much like the community in general, you know, so many veterans don't even know what benefits are out there for them, and if they don't know, their family members surely aren't going to know. And we're seeing that on a broader spectrum with our whole population not knowing, you know, exactly not only just what's available, but the process, the system, you know.
Well, and it's like a jigsaw. I mean, I would have been dead like 5 years ago because I got diagnosed with this rare cancer, and I went to all the specialists, and they refer me to other specialists, and then I finally end up at the James Cancer Clinic, and you would think that's the top of the line, and they know what they're doing there. They basically tell me, oh, you'll sit around, and at some point you're going to need major surgery, but all we can do right now is just, you know, make it as easy as possible for you. I didn't even know if I was going to be alive that Christmas. But my wife, who's an RN and has a doctorate in nursing and has done research, she didn't take the James Cancer Clinic as a no. She went online, she did the research, she saw where the cutting edge technology and thought was on treating neuroendocrine tumors. Some people thought of it's called NETs cancer. But it mimics all sorts of other intestinal diseases and stuff, so people get misdiagnosed for years like I was. When I finally found out, I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad. But if I had myself, I have to guide through all of these systems and hoops and making appointments and finding a doctor, it would drive me crazy. I mean, I probably could figure it out, but with my wife's skill and her knowledge, we were able to find the best treatment, what the new line of thought was on treating this cancer. And the new one is you don't sit around and wait till it gets really bad. You cut it out, cut it out, cut it out. Fortunately, I've only had one major surgery, but they dug out 10 feet of my intestines. But I'm back to normal. It's like 4 years ago, my oncologist started saying, oh, you're still around? But without my wife guiding me through that whole process, and even to this day with prescriptions and appointments and everything else, I would just give up. It's so difficult to get a hold of this info. I told her you should start a business where people pay you to guide them through whatever health issue you're going through. It's just crazy out there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's an industry in itself. It's consulting and discovery, you know. It certainly is, you know. Well, we see it at government level, particularly local government, you know, because one thing to point out about our local government officials is these are typically, you know, people from your community that care about the community. Is usually why they get on these boards and committees, is because they take a general interest in what's going on. Of course, sometimes there's the self-serving interests that interject way into it, but a lot of these people, they don't have the experience of how to seek out the answer, how to seek out that grant. What are the other sources other than, you know, big government riding in on its white pony to save the day, you know, which is what we too often wait for. So then it's, you know, well, can you hire a consulting agent to find these grants and this funding and you know, like engineering firms, the same way. Anytime there's a government project, you know, that's got to be bid out to engineering firms, and they go through the process, whether it's, you know, environmental and structural engineer, and all this has to kind of go hand in hand. It's yeah, and it goes back to the yeah, absolutely. It goes back to that, you know, being qualified for government money, and a lot of doing so is you get pigeonholed as to how you have to use that money as well, you know, and because absolutely all the strings attached coming into a project like that is, you know, before you even break ground, you could have several $100,000 into, say, $1 million project before you even break ground, just in engineering and discovery processes.
Now, is there a way to cut the waste in this, that much money, or is it required by law, or it's just built up over time? What's the...
I think it's a little of both. I mean, of course, with added regulations, you know, again, back to the public, or I should say the local municipality is keeping track of what regulations and what hoops you've got to jump through is very difficult, where when you hire that engineering firm, that's what they do. You know, so there's more involved than just knowing.
Now, Mike, when you as the mayor of Au Gres, what sort of projects do you guys, how do you determine if something is going to be bid out? If we want to do this project, who do we choose to engage in the contract? Is there a level where you actually bid stuff out? How's it work in Au Gres?
I mean, for transparency, any government project like that should go through a bidding process, even if that's just a public notice that, you know, this is up there. And if you get one bid, obviously that's who you go with, you know. And on smaller projects, you know, that aren't really a project, so to speak, it's maintenance or something like that, you can source, you know, local contractors to get things done. But
so, say for example, a township had an RV park like Au Gres does, and you were going to put in Wi-Fi service, or similar to what you see at a hotel or resort area or on a cruise ship, where you pay for and get broadband access. If you own a township, that'd be something you'd bid out for, right? You wouldn't just give away.
yes, it would require I mean, and again, what's written into their bylaws, if you will, or the charter, things vary too.
Even if it wasn't in the charter and I was on the board.
Well, it's something I'd want to do just out of back to public awareness. Information is, people want to know what's going on in their community, and again, it's a double-edged sword, because
the last 5 years, things started, typically people would elect people and just trust them to do the job. They didn't feel like they had to double check. And I think with things that have happened, especially in the last year or two, but even before that, people are starting waking up and saying, hey, wait a minute, I got to take the time. At least now there's online stuff, you know, you don't have to necessarily drive. But we've seen a jump in active participation. And the same people 2 years ago when you were saying, well, why are you doing this with Berthoff Field, or why are you selling that new beach property? They would say, well, we've had planning sessions and we've had meetings. Why don't you come to the meetings? Why don't you join the committees? Well, you need to participate. So in the last year and a half, we took their advice. I mean, we started applying to be on committees that they used to tell us, we're always looking for volunteers for the committees. And we've applied, a few of us, and we don't get picked for some reason. And now they're mad that we're showing up and we're asking tough questions. It's like, no. You people told us to participate, and you're seeing it across the country. You know, a lot of things are just being modeled after what is specifically nationwide. When you saw some of the big school board things, and people went, "Oh, wait a minute!" And so I think it's happening in communities everywhere.
Well, yeah, I think the general public's waking up to things. Whether it's that is the greatest example. There is school board meetings and parents. When we went through this COVID thing through the past year, and more. Things being at home and online, and parents actually taking a look at what the curriculum is, or what I dare to say is the venturing off of what the written curriculum is, or what they thought it was, and just being appalled.
You know what the problem is?
Being appalled.
Public schools have not been set up for online. We did homeschooling from the time our kids were in kindergarten. I realized what was going on with the political agenda at the moment. They weren't. My parents did open classroom schooling back in the 70s and 80s, where a group of kids were taught at different levels because of different skills or different knowledge bases and things like that. Sure. And then we went to online schooling because they started getting a little smarter than I. They did their last few years in high school too, but we had to vet an online learning process or online systems that we self-administered ourselves. And we did tons of research, and we do community groups with kids and other the homeschool communities there. Well, you have public teachers that have never really done online learning and stuff, and you can't just say, here's the paper we were going to write on today, and now download this and fill out this class thing. You can't just start homeschooling and online learning out of the basket, but they haven't given parents the tools to even recognize those resources.
No, it's once again. I'm seeing the common denominator here, and it's the information and everything. You have to investigate and research it yourself to get to the right answer. And this awakening of parents over the past year is proof in the pudding on that.
We got so much enjoyment out of homeschooling. I mean, it's probably the best thing I'm glad that we committed to, because when our kids were like 8 or 9, 10, they could respectably hang out with adults, carry on topical discussions, treat people with respect, have nice friends and things like that. You grow a different type of person when you control their environment more than just using a babysitting service for 10 hours and 8 hours.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And of course, if you can homeschool and also have the opportunity to get the social interaction, you mentioned they had their friends and things like that. That's great.
My parents are educators, I share with them. When we told them we were homeschooling our kids, they're like, what are you doing? Who are they going to socialize with? That was like 90% of people, well, how are they going to socialize? Yeah. Well, every week, my kids, we would take a field trip with a group of like 10 to 20. We had a couple bands that some of the moms and dads had, and we would go to the candy factory in this part of town, or we go to the Columbus Museum of Art this week, or we go to this park and look for fossils the next week. And then on Thursdays we drove to the local YMCA, which had homeschool groups for gym and art and things. So we would have field trips all the time. How many times has your kids nowadays gone on a field trip?
You're right. So, but again, you researched the program and you committed to it, and you realize, the social aspect of our children's upbringing too.
And there's different forms of homeschooling too. Sure. It's like a couple of people here in Oscoda, I've worked in helping them go to homeschooling. And one family was very strongly Christian based, and they wanted a very rigid, Christian curriculum. Right. So I'm familiar with a whole host of that and what that style of homeschooling is like. Sent them in the right direction. On the extreme is, and we did a little bit of it with a couple of my kids, is they call them free roam chickens, but it's open schooling. It's more relaxed, it's more customized. It's like, what do you feel about doing today? Well, you want to do some astronomy? What are you thinking about? But just let them kind of choose and let them guide themselves more. And then there's halfway in between. There's stuff that are CD-ROM kits or stuff you administer yourself. And then for other people, if you're busy, you're working and stuff, and there's complete school systems that you can do it all over the computer that know how to do online schooling, like they don't do in public schools because of the situations.
Right. Because along with that, I mean, the biggest part of school should be reading, writing, arithmetic, and history. So they've got to get those fundamentals in their education to be able to, pass certain tests, get into a college. Not that college is for everybody. There's vocational and
I tell kids now, if my kids were 10 years behind, would have never spent $250,000 sending them to college. I tell people now, it's like, just save up that college money, but when they graduate, guide them and let them, hey, what business would you like to do? Where do you see yourself? Here's you can take $250,000 and you could buy a decent franchise. Not talking just a little, second-tier franchise. You can do a lot of things with $250,000 rather than throw it away at a 6-year vacation, basically.
Well, and it goes back to the common denominator of this conversation is information, and it starts when our kids can understand what you're telling them. When they go to kindergarten through 12th grade, the information that they get, and we went through decades, probably yours and my generation, is, hey, go to college, and you're going to make tons of money.
Right.
If you just get that, you just buckle down and get that degree, get good grades, and go to college.
Well, it's even more like you have to.
Yes.
If you want to be anything in this world, you have to. But do that. If you don't, go to a vocational school.
No.
I mean, there's electricians that will pay for you to go to school. They'll provide for your housing, give you the internships.
But you're spot on. But I think one thing that's changed, and particularly generationally, is with us too, is there was also, we still did our entry-level jobs. We washed dishes at the local restaurant. We mowed lawns. We washed cars.
None of my kids
did those
did that.
things.
None of them.
And for some of us that became a learning experience too. Is I don't want to.
Do you do the paper route thing?
I don't want to do that. But you were taught that higher education is the answer. It's the answer. Well, I see in education we're almost making the same mistakes when we talk about the vocational schools, because we're doing the same method with our kids now, back from being 5 years old to 17 years old, telling them, hey, electricians, plumbers, they make tons of money. Go to a vocational school and you're going to make tons of money. We're making the same mistake. We got to get back to information with our kids and telling them we're still in the land of opportunity.
What do you want? What's your interest? What's your passion?
What's your interest? What's your passion? But realize that if you're going to succeed at anything you do, you're going to have to work at it. And sometimes you're going to fail. It's not just going to be an automatic. If you've got a degree in engineering, that you're going to make lots of money. If you've got a certificate to be an electrician, you're not just going to automatically make money.
You got the skills, you have the opportunities, you have to go out. That's what you're entitled to, is the opportunity.
And that's the key, and even there's nothing wrong with, working on the road crews, working construction, being an equipment operator, waiting tables. There's a whole third aspect of our economy in jobs that matter, that I think we discovered this during COVID, that there's a lot of people that we may have not given the attention to that are a little more essential than we thought.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. What we also have to understand is there's something that is an entry-level job that wasn't meant to provide for a family of four. It was supposed to be a high school student cutting their teeth on employment.
When I was 15, 16 years old and making what was minimum wage at that time, minimum wage was because I was 15 years old and this is my first job.
Right.
Although, you know what COVID has done? COVID has instituted the $15 minimum wage. going around the back door, because literally across the street down here at McDonald's, if you work there 6 months, you're probably going to be making over $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
Making, not that there's anything wrong with making French fries. I've actually thought of maybe going down and say, hey, you need help on the weekends? You know.
But you know, and you're hitting the nail on the head with that too, is because then what happens is that type of employment, it takes it away from what's referred to as entry level. You know, getting experience and doing things. You know, when we're telling kids that they're entitled to happiness. One, they're not going to go work at McDonald's, so those jobs now become adult-taken jobs, and as being taken by adults, they feel that it should be the type of wages where you can support a family of four on.
Yeah, and that's not what it was designed for.
That's the shift. So it goes back to information. Information is key. Doing the research, or at least being informed about, you know, yeah. I know plenty of electricians, I know plenty of plumbers, and guess what? They work a lot of hours, and they work hard. You know, that plumber might be in the nastiest crawl space doing a plumbing job that you've never seen.
Right.
You know, that isn't just I've got my plumbing degree, I make $100,000 a year.
So people too, it's like, if your kid is looking at a career in whatever industry or whatever, go out, reach out, find somebody that they can go to work with them for a day, you know, and see, you know, go with the plumber. I had a real bad job. You know?
Right. No, I mean,
go to the engineer when he's being yelled at a conference call.
You know, but we're seeing this dynamic shift in our society as to, you know, what we judge success on, if that makes sense. You know, and everything was higher education. Well, even in that degree, not to take anything away from that, but you know what? A lot of higher education, and you're getting into being an engineer or an architect. These folks work hard too, and they put in the hours, and they sacrifice family time, and they do things to make that living. It's not just automatic.
There's a difference between getting your bachelor's and getting your master's. It's a whole different universe. Had multiple people, my wife included. When she got her RN, she was going to go work at the hospital for a year or two. And then maybe go back and work on our master's, but she was going to take a couple years off. And we were looking at the money and what grants and tuition would be and what stipend she would get if she just stayed in school. And basically got close that she could probably stay in school, work on that degree, and we wouldn't lose too much money on the back end in terms of what was coming into the household. And then she was also being guided by some of the professors of hers. Because what would happen in a profession like nursing is people would come into their doctoral program, but it's at the end of their career, and it's more like just a trophy on the shelf. It's not people that are going to go in and become an assistant professor and go into research and things. So they combined the master's doctorate program and cut a year off of it. And when we did the math, she continued that, and you know, she came out making probably $30,000 more per year than if she had stayed out and worked at the hospital for the previous 3. My son-in-law did the same thing with engineering. And he was going to go home to the summer after he graduated and work at Target and try to find something in Cleveland. And we said, no, look at the money and what can come in on grants and tuitions, because, and then look at pay ranges for someone with a master's in your field, night and day. You know, he's now making 6 figures, and if they hadn't taken stuff into BA, he wouldn't have done it. So, you know, if you're going to go in, go hard.
Right. Well, exactly. Commit to that, and know that you're going to have to work hard to do it. You know.
My son, for example, sports management. He got a BA at Butler in sports management, but then went to Washington State and got his master's, and now he's up for. And again, when you're in a situation, what can I do? How can I work? So he always worked in the co-ed recreational sports department. He's refereeing and things like that. But now that he's got his master's in that, he's up for $50,000-$60,000 jobs rather than something in the mid-20s, mid-30s if you just stay with the BA. So I say, yeah, if you're going to go in all the way.
Well, and I mean,
hey, we need to talk that you're running for Congress. Not only is Mike Hoadly the mayor of Au Gres, he's running for Congress.
Well, I'm running for the state house.
I'm sorry, the state house.
The state house of our 99th district, which now after the redistricting committee, Iosco, Ogama, Aranet counties in whole are part of the 99th. Most of Gladwin County, the eastern sliver of Clare County, And the northern 3 townships of Bay County are now our 99th district. So it's
That's
a large,
huge.
yeah, it's a large area. And what that consists of is a state house district is roughly 90 to 93,000
Yeah.
people. So to get that, we had to broaden the district.
Now, this is
to get that.
brand new, so what districts, was this an amalgamation of districts in this area beforehand?
It was what was the 97th district, the 106th district, and the 103rd. So it took a little bit of all 3 of those to make the new 99.
And because of the increase in population, they were able to do that?
Well,
Or,
just because of the census in general, and then with the redistricting commission, which is something
Oh,
we
that was
voted
new
in.
too, yeah.
Right, so they wanted to tailor things more towards communities of interest. I wish they would have did a better job of keeping county lines a little more intact with the districts. But in some cases, particularly in our northern districts, is they did an okay job at communities of interest. I mean, Aranac and Iosco County, we share shoreline, of course. You know, Ogama and Aranac, we fought, you know, drainage and rivers and all those combined for their rural and agricultural similarities. So
that representative that holds that seat then can focus on communities that have interrelationships where things are more, that makes, I never even thought of it from that. It's more like a services relationship. That, yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, so they did a fair job at that. It was probably more difficult for them to do in our southern districts, you know, Detroit, Ann Arbor, Lansing, you know, and I think things went more to gerrymandering.
Is that more the wrestling goes on?
Yeah, control from red to blue.
Well, God bless Wayne County. All 100% of their voters turned out the last election. Literally.
110%.
But that's impossible. That can never happen.
No.
Max is at 100, doesn't it?
So yeah, I'm running for that seat. You know, we've talked before off camera here as to what my qualifications are and what brought me to this point.
Yeah, tell us about Mike Hoadly.
I'm obviously the mayor for the city of Au Gres. I'm serving my 2nd term there.
Okay. 2 years, 4-year terms?
It's a 3-year term.
Of course.
Yeah. You're all right. But I preside over the city council that I was first elected to back in 2017.
Okay.
I was reelected in 2020. That's a 3-year term.
All right.
And prior to that, what got me involved in our community, again, a love for my community, is I served on our city's planning commission, as well as our city's tax income funding authority, which is like a DDA, a downtown development authority. Along with those,
ours was a fiasco here.
Along with those, I also serve as the chair of the Aranac County Planning Commission.
Okay.
And I think we might have talked about this earlier with the Soldiers and Sailors Board
at
the county level. That's also a county appointed seat where I serve on that board as well, helping our local veterans. So I've been very involved in local community and local politics for the better part of a decade here. I ran a small business in Tawas at the end of the industrial park, Hunter's Niche, and our flagship was Predator Traditional Bows, as well as a product called Future Wood. So obviously, as the name is...
Was that like a fabricated material, Future Wood?
Yes, it's a fabricated, exactly. And what the company was in whole is, you know, our primary function was Predator Traditional Bows. We made recurves, long bows. You know, part of my claim on that was establishing global distribution, which is difficult, as you can imagine. We made some
just distribution in a region.
Yeah, right. And some bow hunting accessories, and then that Future Wood product was basically a wood stabilization process or a wood impregnation where we take.
Was that patented by you or somebody else?
No, it's not. It wasn't really a patented process. It's basically pressure treating wood. Okay. And what we would do is we'd take local sources like maple, and we'd infuse that with an acrylic resin along with colors, and that's how we would make a lot of our recurve bows. And we supplied Bear Archery for 10 years. And, and at the end of 2020, going into 21, I broke those divisions up, including real estate on Aldrich Road, and we sold that off and to prepare me for what I'm doing today. So I've done that for 20 years. For 10 years prior to that, I was the customer relations manager for Dart and Archery. So that got me ingrained into the hunting industry and ignited that passion. As you'll probably catch, the theme here is I usually am very passionate about what I do, whether it was in the outdoor industry, in serving my communities, serving my country. As before being any of that, I served in the U.S. Army.
Oh, did you?
From 1990 to 1994. That's why I was appointed that seat on the Soldiers and Sailors Board.
So that's why it was first person golf?
That was, yes, that was Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And that's, one of the qualifications for my appointment to the Soldiers and Sailors Board is being a deployed veteran myself.
What was your specialty?
I was a 13 Bravo, and for those that aren't familiar with that, that's artillery.
Okay. Guy with the earplugs.
So who? Right? Combat arms. So, I mean, my passion for my country, my state, my community has gone back over 30 years. I mean, just as important in my life is I've been married to the same woman for 26 years. We've got two beautiful children, a boy, Nicholas, who's 21. He's going to college and working and making some pretty good moves in life, like we talked about. He's getting a degree in something that matters. He's going into computer engineering.
Oh, there you go.
And he also works in optometry as well. He's got
Really?
He's got an interest in the technical aspects of that, the testing, and the he's a bright kid.
Yeah.
Very proud of him. And my daughter Natalie, who's a senior in Au Gres High School this year. And we're hoping here we're going to find out that she's going to graduate number one in the class.
All right, yeah.
Off to college there. So we're very proud of our two kids. And again, that ignites my passion of why I'm running for this seat.
What started your passion to run for supervisor in 2017? I mean, mayor.
No, that's a great question. Again, it's being involved at the committee levels, meaning the planning commission and that tax income funding, and just seeing the need, the need for knowledgeable folks to step up, take the reins, and run things. I like to think of myself as someone that not only engages, but I don't ask for the accolades, I earn them.
Were there any specific issues in Au Gres at that time that you said, hey, wait a minute, something needs to...
I wouldn't call them as issues as much as just what every small community was facing is, a downturn in our economy. More of our northern economies that were reliant on travel and tourism, Oscoda and Tawas as well. Seeing that downturn and seeing businesses close and some empty buildings there. Unfortunately, a lot of people that are familiar with Au Gres probably know us for having the closed McDonald's. Right? We've got the closed McDonald's.
Ours just started opening up after on 4th of July weekend this summer. Literally, if you were traveling and vacationing here after 9 o'clock, it was very difficult to find where to get food.
Yeah.
Literally, unless you went to one of the great little bars and taverns around here, but all of the major ones were closed on the 4th of July weekend, and it's like...
So I guess what drove me there is seeing the need for Au Gres to reestablish its identity.
Yeah.
So we focused on recreation, going back
population of Au Gres, real quick?
For the city of Au Gres,
Yeah.
it's roughly 880.
Oh.
But it's in the center of what we refer to as the Au Gres community. There's Au Gres Township to the south of us, and then there's Sims Whitney, the top. But the city of Au Gres is the metropolis, if you will, of where the businesses are along 23.
The whole township, what's that look like?
Then we're going to be roughly getting into closer to the 6,000 mark.
Okay, so very similar to our town.
Yeah. Yep, and it's a large land plot, if you will, to get that 6,000. So recognizing the need. Again, just like when I'm running for this seat, it's recognizing the need for leadership, the need for focus.
What's happened with the Republican Party in Michigan like the last, I don't know, I guess we could go back forever, but specifically like the last 8 years, it just seems like there's a lot of weakness.
Yeah, it's a twofold story on that. There's a lot of weakness, and again, I call it the milk, toast, and honey aspect of it. We get along the go along to get along mentality. And
I think some Republicans don't realize some of their enemies are literally out to destroy them. They're still the old school where we're polite, we play by the rules, and we're not nasty, even though they may be. And I don't think they understand the amount. It's a hatred level now.
Yes, they don't understand
And it's
that.
unfortunate.
And I mean, and again, from outside the political circles, we always, we all got to just get along, and we've all got to reach across the aisles, and we need to do those things. That all sounds good in theory. However, all of us, no matter what our political affiliation is, we have to understand the fundamentals of our country, our Constitution at the federal level, our state constitution. No matter what that party is we have to adhere to those, and we have to get back to the general functions of what our government are. It's not the do-all, save-all to our society. We need to concentrate more on community efforts. Again, we go back to how we started the themes of this conversation, is informing. And it's informing kids when they're little that, you live in the land of opportunity, you work hard, in whatever direction you go into. If you buckle down and do it, you can succeed in it, whether it's a labor position, working on our road crews, plenty of waitresses and waiters make tons of money. You can do those things if you work at it. And vocational, the same thing. You can make lots of money, and you can be happy as an electrician, plumber, a carpenter, architect, things like that, and through all aspects of it. But I think we get too many politicians that are one-dimensional, meaning they focus on one thing. Like I was saying through our generations, higher education, you got to have a degree, you got to have a degree, and now we're seeing this wholehearted transformation to vocational schools. You have, my gosh, let's focus on that, and I get so irritated at the point where, from the government standpoint, is we just throw money at it. Well, we're gonna promote trade schools. Let's just throw money at it, folks. If we don't actually start training kids at 5 years old with the mentality of America, who are you going to train to go to these schools that are going to succeed at it? That's why we've got this vacuum now, is because we've created this new mentality of entitlement.
Yeah.
And like you said, is where we're being attacked from sources within our own country.
Well, that's the one thing, my biggest concern about immigration for, gosh, a very long period of time, is not necessarily immigrants coming to our country, but it used to be we would try to bring people that you wanted to come to the United States because you respected your opportunities here and our liberties and freedoms you don't have where you're moving from. And that's completely out of the vetting process.
Assimilate to the American
And I think
way.
it's still a law where if you do immigrate here, you have to have somebody vouch for you that they're going to support you. I think that's still on the books, although it's not followed nowadays.
Exactly, and yeah, it's assimilation, to the American way, know the customs of where you want to live, and I think.
And I think we have some percentage of people now that are immigrating here that hate America, like literally.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And again, it goes back to our young people, is they're being taught to hate America rather than good citizenship. Work hard, the American way. And I dare say that as soon as you come across with any degree of patriotism, you're labeled as something you're not.
Yeah, it's projection. Yeah, whatever they're calling you is really what they're.
You can be rest assured, but. I mean, this is a long-winded answer to what's going on in the Republican Party. There's certainly a division there. What you talked about, what I call the milk, toast, and honey, is as referred to as the establishment. It's just been the good old boy cigar club for so long, and it's business as usual, and there's not a recognition, if you will, of the end game.
Right.
Our founding fathers of this country had amazing foresight. It makes my short hairs stand up to think about everything they wrote into these documents, and even the writings outside of the Constitution. It's just, they've seen this 250 years ago. Why? Because they knew the nature of man,
Yeah.
the nature of humankind.
And it's been able to survive with all of the changes in technology and society. It's still at root. Maybe that's why it's so small. It's that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. So then, back to that Republican Party. So then we've got a whole another chapter of it that is just, running around with their hair on fire, willing to label who's an establishment, who's use the word rhino and an establishment and all this terminology. It's all being watered down, like the word racist, the word Nazi, all these words now have been redefined over a period of time to where they've lost their meaning.
Webster's dictionary changes words in real time now.
Do they?
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
What they do the other week, it was something related with COVID, and they literally changed the definition of vaxxer. To include people that do have the shot but are in favor of people having the choice. So Webster's now put those people that have had shots but believe in freedom of choice, they're now classified by Webster's under the definition for vaccine.
Yeah.
They just changed it. They just changed it.
That's just astounding.
Yeah.
I mean, it just...
It's like they changed the definition. Well, the medical profession changed the definition in the medical community of a vaccine. They literally changed the definition of what makes something a vaccine.
Yeah. And, well, I mean...
They just change words and meanings.
And, on that vaccine topic, get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine.
Your choice.
It's your choice. Government mandates on medical choice is just, it's becoming a boil on our society. Again, another way of dividing us, whether it's, full circle here back to the Republican Party, is being able to divide by terminology, by ideology, or lack thereof. And now we're seeing this with the whole vax and unvax thing, whether it's, you believe it's got a microchip in it and it's interlinked with the 5G system I don't know. Okay? I don't know. All I know is I should have
Maybe that's why Pfizer wants 75 years to be locked up. That's crazy too, that they want to be put away.
But I don't know, but I should have the freedom of what I put in my body. I find it so
It's a risk assessment, just like with insurance or something.
Well, absolutely, and I just find it so, I guess, hypocritical of the people that will argue for a mandate on a vaccine are the same ones,
my body, my choice.
My body, my choice, about abortion.
I started those memes going out on the internet as soon as that came out. My body, my choice.
Well, here's the thing. I figured it out. Here it is. You don't have any choice if it's something being put in your body. You only have the choice if it's something being taken out of your body. You see, I think that's where we got. I mean, isn't that crazy?
Okay.
I mean, isn't that crazy? And what you need to understand is...
it's almost like when you even use that argument with somebody, they literally ignore you. They won't even address the hypocrisy.
They think you're being cute. Yeah. And with that, I mean, not to get just, right into the weeds on this, but if you do get that vaccine and if you believe in it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But just know this, you can't abort it.
Yeah.
Once it's in, it's in. Okay? So just remember that term there,
And potentially, because we know there are, and again, for you too, there are medical risks that are associated with that vaccine for some people. So if you want to make that choice, it should be your choice.
Right. But it's not.
Doctors are being investigated now for advising their patients on what they feel is the proper, do you take the vaccine or don't you? Like I myself made sure, my mom, who's 87, was thinking, I don't want to get this vaccine. And I'm like, no, Mom, you are the type that definitely needs it.
Right.
So we reached out to the state of Florida because it was at the time they were just pushing the release to seniors and we're waiting for her category to get in. But we got her double vaxxed as soon as possible. Now, the ironic thing is, back in August, she came down with COVID, blood clots in her legs and an aneurysm in her chest, which is it's been reported medically on the VARS database, YouTube, that is a symptom that sometimes happens as a reaction to this. So, did the right thing, and it's like,
So why is this becoming such a divisive point, where, you know, you're an anti-vaxxer? No, I'm a pro-freedom person, you know, and the government isn't always the right answer. I mean, I think Ronald Reagan said it best.
I wish one of like Rasmussen or somebody would do a poll, and I've actually looked to try to find if it's out there, but I would like to see a poll done of people that have been vaccinated. What percentage had to be vaccinated because of a mandate, and then what percentage of those would not have been, but it was only for the mandate to get vaccinated. So if there's 60% of the population is vaccinated, well, what percentage are willingly?
Sure.
But follow-up question is, if you voluntarily got vaccinated, do you wish you had or not?
Yeah.
And then those two questions would really shed a huge light on where this country really stands.
I couldn't agree more.
All right, we'll work on that.
Yeah, right. You know, as the governor of the tri-county area here, or quad-county area now, because I submitted a petition to be involved in it as here in county. But it's disheartening, Dirk, to see so much division on things that shouldn't be left up to the government to begin with.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the driving factors. One thing I recognize as being a state representative is just that, being a representative. You know, too often, you know, what we want to do is we want to hear from the candidate, and okay, this is their belief system, and okay, I vote on that. And I think you touched on this with what happens at the local level of townships, is we just blindly go, okay, I just trust their judgment, and then I just go on with my life. It's not supposed to work that way. It's called we the people for a reason.
And it's like people now are electing a politician to an office because of their ideology, not thinking that who's going to represent and listen to we the people.
Right.
We're not voting for someone that's going to have the best capacity of doing the best things for our whatever unit of government is, and we're electing ideologies rather than people.
Well, people with or the right ideology, if you will, of remembering what it means to represent the people rather than lead the people. You know, I've come up with the Pied Piper analogy with that. You know, is far too often what happens. I mentioned earlier what a house district being about 90 to 93,000 people. My military background, to me, that's great. That means I've got 90,000 people that not just support me, but they're the voice. I'm just the tool in Lansing to project that voice and work for the 90,000 people.
Yeah. Not the 60 or not the 30.
Well, and
it's everybody.
And what a great resource. That was back to, I think you talked about the complacency of the Republican Party, who had control of the House and the Senate in the state of Michigan through most of the COVID thing. And we've seen all this tyrannical behavior through the executive branch, not to mention any names, but it rhymes with Mittmer.
I can figure out another word it rhymes with, but I won't say it, YouTube.
But, you know, and then the use of non-elected officials, meaning our bureaucracies, whether it's the health department, MIOSHA, and other entities, to implement non-constitutional power. You know,
it's the administrative state. Yeah, who wrote the novel back in the 20s about the amendment?
No, but it's exactly where we're going. And when we elect ideology, like you said, and just trust that they're going to do it, they become a representative of government, not of the people. You know, so many times, and we've seen it. We've interviewed our own politicians when they come back from Lansing or from D.C. They're giving us a report of what the government's doing. Something seems backwards to me now. Yeah. Okay, I see this as my district of 90,000 people that are the voice. You know.
What are some of the biggest concerns of your area? What do you think? Like, or better yet,
of our area.
Better yet, what if Mike Hoadly becomes? If we could make you Governor Hoadly, not only the four-county area, but the entire state, and replace that woman.
Okay.
What would be like on your first five or first three, what are the first three things that you would really focus on for the entire state of Michigan?
Well, I mean, probably at the top of that is, again, wrangling in and limiting the power of bureaucracy. These are non-elected officials that have authority that weren't given to them by we the people. The other thing is, again, recognizing, what is equality over equity, and looking at the state in whole is looking at what issues are important to rural people are not really all that different than what's happening in our inner cities. You move up north here, and so many people think that we don't have big city problems. Well, I'm afraid to tell you we do. We have drug addiction. We've got homelessness. We've got these issues that you think don't exist up here, but we've also got the additional issues up here of affordable housing, environmental issues,
What housing
drainage.
issues are you seeing in the gray area now? You have shortages?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. We see those shortages, and why I use that as one of the priorities is, those become the type of demographics that prohibit businesses from coming into your community. Any larger job maker is looking at what's in that community that can support their business. They have the people there. The people that already live there have the proper training or the right mindset to work for my company. If I'm importing people in there, are there places for them to live? This becomes the same thing for recreation and tourism too. Oh great, we're going to do all these great events. Cool. Where are they going to stay? Where are they going to eat? So there's those things. But to go on with things that are big when we talk about our rural areas and we talk about those top five is, infrastructure, and what we refer to as infrastructure. Of course, we know the basics: roads, bridges.
Cell phone.
And there you have it. There you have it.
You know what?
Cell phone and internet is.
I was just
Well, in cell service, businesses are affected by, tourism's affected by, safety and emergencies because of weather warnings now. We had somebody almost die up on the Asabo River because they had to walk out to get cell service. If I'm a businessman coming to see about moving to our area and my kids are screaming about no cell service, I ain't moving. Same with the tourists. That might be the winning issue that everybody's going to agree on. Cell phone. Get a cell phone coverage, Mike. That's your opportunity. That's what you're going to run, all right?
I like it because it's
everybody wants them.
But again, in that top five, and when we talk about, our rural areas being equal to the inner city areas, and as far as what I mean by that is our government focus on our rural communities. Like I said, we've got the big city, yeah, or just forgotten about altogether, and again, back to that complacency is our representatives go to Lansing, and guess what? They're focused on Lansing problems. They're not representing our district.
Over the Washington.
Absolutely. It becomes, we've got to focus on these things that really don't help our rural communities, and internet and reliable cell service is a big void for a lot of our rural communities. Well, there's been the kind of the revolving point in our conversation today has been information, and just as bad as no information is misinformation. It's even worse, right? So we look at these local.
Nobody's going to get you information for your phone, information for your data.
So we talk about our rural communities being equal in our representation. No. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, is when I say equality, I mean not just human equality. I meant.
Wait, you meant to say equity, right?
Oh no, I meant.
No, you meant equity. Right?
I didn't.
Everybody's
mean,
fair. It's free. Oh, wait a
Right.
minute.
Oh, does that mean the city of Tawas, Oscoda, and Au Gres, we get the same funding as Detroit, Ann Arbor, and by money, by by money, right? By dollar amounts, no. But what's going to bring those businesses in, and then what's forgotten with that, and when we talk about the infrastructure, the obvious, we've got the crumbling infrastructure here too, whether it's our job. So I mean, are you going to be able to bring businesses into our rural community if you've got you know the standard crumbling infrastructure, but if you don't have housing, okay, if you don't have internet, phone service, now we get into our rural communities, and we often forget about our farming community. Well, they're businesses, folks. They need internet, phone service.
Well, and with farming, it gets back to the internet. A lot of farming equipment runs off of internet data.
No, I mean tractors that are running off of GPS feed. I'm not real familiar with that, but there's big technology that's implemented in our farming community. So having lack of this other forgotten infrastructure for our rural communities is it is a top issue, and that's why I keep talking about that.
I was been wondering too. It's like, how much money are we giving to countries around the world for their internet and their bandwidth? I've gotten internet in remote Africa. I mean, we need to do the research on that.
Well, when you do, feed me some of the data, because I'd be entertained to know. Because, but well, we've seen it. We've seen it even before we lived in this information age. Is third world countries. Oh, we got to make sure that they've got clean water and sources. What about here? We don't think of our drainage up here as being infrastructure.
Well, we've got the people.
Absolutely, PFAS, and now we've got other invasive plant species coming around now. The frog bit. I don't know if you've heard about that. That's like an invasive small lily pad fungus type weed that's very yeah, and all of our waterways. It's starting to be, it might be.
Does it look like
It looks like yes, it looks like mini lily pads, and it's almost like in a bloom fashion. I mean, it's easy to remove, and there's more awareness about that information. But yeah, we got PFAS, we got the frog bit, we've got gypsy moths. We don't think about that stuff in the city. And
summer they hit our place Clear Lake summer before, and that's just the west camp there. That later,
right? Yeah. So I mean, we've got a whole array of issues. No. Oh no, I didn't want to know that. But drainage is another thing. In inner cities and big communities, that is part of infrastructure, because most of that is man-made sewer. Storm sewer systems that drain that off. Up here, we rely on creeks, streams, ditches, things of that nature, and as we've seen in absolutely all over our region. Well, everywhere. It's an everywhere problem, and what's made that so prevailing over the last few years is when you couple that in with the emerald ash borer that's killed all these ash trees. So now when we do have flooding, it's taken all these down trees, which, by the way, that the dead ash trees, reason why we've seen so many power outages over the last 10 years too, all the trees falling. Well, these trees, when we have a flood situation, guess what? It ends up in our stream, our rivers, our ditches, and it jams them up. They become dams. So we have to focus.
Now, is that like when we had the flooding last year down in your area?
Yeah. Particularly more so like on the Rifle River. They had a lot more log jam issues there, but they've had that for years. But again, because all the dead ash, that's become so much more prevailing, and it becomes an issue. Well, drainage and hole doesn't get recognized in infrastructure funding. You know, it's usually left up to your county drain commissioners, and that's why you start seeing things like special assessments added to your property tax bill for people that live along rivers and shorelines, things like that, you know. Yeah, my issues there are, again, focusing on our community in Lansing, having that representation of those issues that get swept under the rug or are out of complacency or laziness or just the focus being on so many other big city type issues. And unfortunately, another problem we're seeing in Lansing is the allowance of a centralized federal government taking more and more of our state sovereignty. You know, we see that with whether what the federal government trying to push now with election law. You know, they want a federal takeover of election, completely unconstitutional. You know, and then when you hear that down at the state level, it's the state legislature's responsibility to make elections. The state House and the state Senate, of course, you know, goes through the process of signing the government, not the Secretary of State. That's just it. It just flows through there. And then again, we were talking about making the court system so prevailing these days is, holy cow, we're seeing things being done, and then it takes an X amount of time for it to go through the legal process to get shot down, whether it's at the federal or state level. Well, the unfortunate thing for we the people on that is it's already set the precedent. You know, we're seeing that, okay, more recently, the Supreme Court of the United States has shot down the OSHA vaccine mandate implemented by the president. That to have to go through the process to be found unconstitutional, but in the meantime, the damage is done, and it sets a precedent with some of these larger companies. You know, that just now they just kind of they feel uneasy about that.
Will know.
Right.
Or
So the
didn't say or else, but there was a
right. So the precedent gets set. You know, and the same with you know, happening in election law. Oh, we're just going to do this, and then we'll get the slap on the hand later. But in the meantime, as you just pointed out, the damage is done. It's hard to reel back.
I never thought, I knew we were headed towards where we are just about now. When I was doing talk radio back in the 90s and 2000s, it was something I was warning people about. It was something I was called crazy for. Why are you calling them communists? You know, why are you saying these things and warning about this? Because of where we are now.
Yeah.
All those things I was being ridiculed or dismissed about have happened. Multiple events, facts have been revealed that prove what these people were condemning me for. I don't get any apologies. Or, hey, Dirk, I'm sorry. You know, you were right about those damn UFOs. I saw the video from the Pentagon. They're like, just what you said, little balls that run around aircraft. I'm sorry. No, I don't get the apologies.
No, because it can control the news cycle, if you will, and they just switch on to another topic. You know, it's just, things are happening so fast, and the direction is we're traveling in has been.
The biggest tragedy in terms of not America, but worldwide discourse is the fact that we are a Twitter world. I mean, anybody can Google this information. I think in the United States, Twitter has like 40 to 60 million registered accounts. And then you look at which of those are active and how active, like some of them are not active of that universe of accounts. And then there's another percent that they are active once a week, a couple times a month. And then there's ones that are active like daily basis, you know, hourly, with the people that are just the trite thing is in their basement wearing pajamas. It's like that. Don't say that phrase anymore. But it's just people that are on those. That universe is like 2 to 4 million active daily users. Wow. So the worldwide number is obviously larger, but in the United States, this group of 10 million people are driving the news cycle, driving public opinion. It's like, why are we listening to those? And then you throw in Facebook and the other ones, and then the manipulation that You know, the meddling we saw done in the election. You want to talk about meddling? It was meddling on steroids.
Oh, yeah.
What did the Russians spend $200,000 on Facebook ads for President Trump?
Frivolous, right? You know, and well, and when you talk about the media outlets, you know, there's hundreds of news outlets that we refer to as news outlets, but they're owned by 24 corporations.
It's like the record industry. When I was dealing with record labels that were pushing records to radio stations, it was like this record company is a part of this record company, which is a part of this record company, and then you get all the way up the chain. You've got Sony and Epic, and there was like, but it was like just like the phone companies.
Right.
There was 3 or 4 controlling a whole pyramid of other things, and you're absolutely right. It's the same in the media.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it was a couple decades now as Anheuser-Busch was, you know, buying up all the microbreweries, you know, and it kind of the same thing, of course.
Yeah, I was in the store for years. I'm like, wait a minute.
You know?
This isn't Dave in his garage, you know, this is...
Yeah, right, but...
Well, Anheuser-Busch then got bought up by...
a German company
or France, yeah.
Or something,
yeah.
You know, so it's just, again, you know...
In beverage or something like
yeah,
that.
the corporate world, right?
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately, politics is working the same way. You know, they're chewing up.
Politico just got purchased by a German conservative company.
Okay.
A huge site like Politico. And some people were saying, we're looking at what President Trump's doing with his, what's the name, his new platform. It's an investment tool. And they're saying that he's going to then go out and start purchasing some of these media companies that are going to be wanting to be spun off, like CNN. Their audience is gone. They're down 80% from where they were.
I can't even believe
And I think AT&T owns them now, and AT&T is going to get to a point where they're just going to say,
I can't
wouldn't that be ironic if Trump media bought them? I think he joked about that in the past.
It'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
It would. Speaking of President Trump, you are Trump endorsed.
I am one of the 8 Michigan House candidates that are indeed endorsed by President Trump. It's a complete honor to have that recognition. Like I said, you know, I'm not a newcomer, but I'm only involved at, you know, Aranac County level, involved on the state level, but to have that recognition from the 45th President of the United States is it's inspiring.
It is. And see, I dropped the hammer right here because I've let you, the listener, now learn about Mike. He's a decent, he's an honest guy, he's a kind guy, and so kind of eases. You know, I was thinking with people that, you know, all these terms like trigger, okay?
Yeah.
A lot of these people are now starting to look, oh, wait a minute, you know, even CNN is bringing up issues that were part of their story that they truly followed, and it's like I was telling people, okay, you need to bring back the attacks on these people now because they're slowly learning. And it's difficult when someone's coming out of the cult. But no, we need to be more outreaching and stuff. And by holding this great news for you as being endorsed by the president, it'll give somebody, because if we started off this interview and I said, it's a Trump endorsed congressional candidate, blah, blah, I can't hear you.
Right.
But this, how did that come about? And is the president, is he doing a lot of state races in addition to national endorsements?
He's doing national endorsements. He's done, I think, 12 or 13 endorsements in whole in the state of Michigan, but he's reaching out across all the state races. He's understanding, like what we've been talking about here today, is it starts at our local levels and our state levels, and we're even seeing some within at the state level that are helping mama bears run for their school board, you know.
That's one thing we are finding on the News Talk Facebook page. The biggest engagement we are getting is from women. It's almost,
absolutely,
it's like 60-40 or 6, or it's a pretty big separation, and
they're getting involved.
And it's interesting with Facebook, we can get the demographics down. It's like people that are caring about issues are primarily women, and they're between the ages of 45 and 65. But it's that 20-year period, like between your 40s and 60s, that segment of women are the movers and shakers of the Republican Party, I think, in the future.
You know, absolutely, and it's going to start at that level, and then at your local township and city level. Again, why I'm honored so much to have that endorsement is of course I had to put my hand up and say, look at me. I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative.
Was that activism on your part to get noticed?
To a certain extent, just hey, I'm in the good fight. I'm one of the good guys. You know, I believe in our Constitution, and I've been involved for 30 years, whether it was my time in the Army, through local politics. Vet me. Look at me.
Now, does the president, does he have a team of people that are doing this
I'm
process?
sure. I don't know all the ends, and I'll honestly say, you know, I didn't go down and meet with President Trump to get the endorsement, but yeah, his
Wouldn't that be
team.
fun to Carolina?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Just give me 5 minutes
Yeah.
to shake your hand and personally thank you for not just the recognition, but that amount of trust at that level to say, you know, no, Michiganders, trust Mike Hoadly to do this job.
It was
He's gonna
disappointing
represent you.
to see the Republican ignore the fact that over 100% of people turned out to vote in Wayne County, and they got neutered, I think, by their political opposition.
Yeah.
It was sad.
Yeah, absolutely. That complacency again, that go along to get along. Oh, we don't want to rock the boat. You know, we're just gonna kind of turn our head and.
I've really gotten into especially the last year and a half, in looking up movers and shakers' political contributions. And when I looked up some of the most waffliest Republicans on that county issue and went through their political donations, and they're from people, industry, that give to everybody. Like a person could be a liberal contributor, so he'll give $2,500 to Whitmer, but on the other hand, he'll give $1,500 to her opponent. And you see these donations they're going down into school boards now and township boards. And seriously, if you're a trustee and you make $4,000 a year, basically volunteering your time, and so gives you $1,000 for your campaign, or even $50, or you're going to at least take the call. You're going to take the call.
Yeah, you have to, you know, and
it's done on both sides too.
Oh, sure.
And that's smart business too with our system also.
Yes, and I mean, you know, being a business owner myself for over those 20 years, is also promoting a product. So I understand the cost of advertising, which is what a campaign is. It's advertising, and it costs money to do so, you know. But I'll say this, when it comes to, you know, corporate donations and things like that, is I'm my own guy, and I'll go further to say is I'd much rather have 1,000 $10 donations than one $10,000 donation.
That literally makes you accountable to the individual and the people, and not.
Well, and it shows support. If somebody wants to donate $10 to my campaign, I feel good about that.
What's your campaign website? If someone's doing
my campaign website is votemhoadley, HOADLEY.com, and of course there's a link on there for a secured donation link on that. Do what you can. $10, $25.
I was telling you off air, it's like when I hear somebody now in the media that I agree with and is running for an office, like somebody, I can't remember their name, but they're going to be running for school board out in the trouble spot in Fairfax, Virginia. Sure. I sent them $5. I was listening to a representative that was running in Oklahoma, but he was on Steve Bannon's War Room show, and
okay.
I was like, and he had there was like some national thing tied into it, that he was being attacked or something, and it's like $10.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that means.
And I've never given politically, never. And if I had back in the day, it was like, oh, you give 100, you get 50, you give 200. It wasn't like these little, but you're right, they all add up.
It all adds up, and what I pride myself on that isn't the $10. It's they believed in me enough to invest. They care, and I think it would be safe to say is that I earned their vote.
Yeah.
You know, I earned their trust. I should say, I hope I come off sincere enough that you truly believe in my core principles as being a representative, and I see it and recognize it as being just that, a representative of the people.
Shocking. I wonder where that idea ever came from.
I'm telling you, and we look back through last year, and we talk about some of the complacency within my own party. you know, and I see these things happen, and then there's very little rebuttal. Guess what? I'm going to use the word again, information. You know, before it was happening.
Information and facts.
Hey, where was our representation calling our local townships, reaching out on the internet? You know, we talked about having the information superhighway, the information age we live in. Use those tools to engage the people that you support. I've got 90,000 people in this district that, by gosh, if something's happening in Lansing that I don't think they're going to agree with, I'm going to let you know before it's happening. This is happening.
With the communications, though, it's like we communicate less with all of this technology because literally everybody they would rather text two mistyped, spelling error text messages to somebody rather than take a smaller amount of time to convey more data, more information, and have a better relationship. Or they're screaming in a paragraph on Facebook about something, you know, but we're not calling people. And it used to be when I was younger and running some websites, you'd be on AOL Messenger or whatever, but you would be there all night. We'd have kids at our radio stations that were just hanging out, chatting with each other, and so it was a continuing conversation. Nowadays, it's just yell at you here, hey here, did I get it on this machine? Did I? And we're not writing letters, you know.
Well, and think about that too, to dial it back on a more personal basis. Have you ever gotten the text from your wife and gone, oh my gosh, what did I do to tick her off? It's not that at all. You know, you don't get emotion with a text message. You don't get.
It was like with the mask. We lose communication. You know, if you can't see a smile, you know, it's like right now you don't know if I'm sticking my tongue out at you or, you know. Absolutely.
You know, and the text message is kind of that same.
Because you don't hear the right tone. It's like, people always say, why do you use hashtags? Why do you use capitals? Why do you? It's because I'm trying to convey to you that don't take this the wrong way. This is supposed to be funny, or, you know, this is because. You gotta hear and see.
Yeah, you didn't catch the little giggle after the exclamation point, so gosh, you're in trouble.
Or nowadays, well, I gave you the giggly sideways emoji. I was like, I don't know what that is.
Right.
No, just call me, just talk to me.
Right, absolutely. So, I mean, those are the reasons I'm running, is if I thought there was somebody more suited, more experienced, or would do a better job, or even understand what the job is better than me, I wouldn't run. I think off camera there, I told you a story of our current representative for the 97th district, Jason Wentworth. Great guy. He's the Speaker of the House for the state of Michigan, and super nice guy. And we had a meeting back in 2018. And
is he running for governor, or is there another Wentworth?
No, he's getting out.
Okay.
He's getting out of politics. He's not, as far as I know, in my last conversation with him, but those are his decisions. God bless him, whatever he chooses to do next. But this is back in 2018 when he was up for re-election before becoming Speaker of the House, and we had a 15-minute coffee turn into 2 hours.
Like this interview.
Like this interview here. And, you know, we got talking and you know, exchanging ideas and what issues mattered in Au Gres and our district in whole, and I asked him kind of the same questions you're asking me, is what got you involved and why did you do this?
Yeah.
And, you know, and he was an Army veteran as well, so we had those inside stories too, you know, and at the
challenge coins and everything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I saw the exchange of challenge coins for the first time ever. I was doing a talk show the weekend right after Benghazi, and I did a weekly show called Hunt for the Truth and delved into all of these issues and a little deep into some of the conspiracies, which now has been proven to be true, by the way. But had both of these callers very interactive. One was a contractor, a pipe fitter that did work in Afghanistan and other unknown places, and he'd go over there for 6 months and make 150 grand and come back, and he literally then would work at his local Kroger. But he was giving me all of the stuff, and then had another fellow who was basically the same thing for a different three-letter agency. So those two came in on that weekend. They hadn't met, they'd heard each other because they were regulars on my show, so they knew of each other, hadn't met, and they started the whole challenge. I think they had like 3 of them, and it was like, oh, now I understand, yeah.
So at the end of the conversation, as I says, gosh, Jason, you're a nice guy, I think you're doing a great job, and for that reason, I'm not going to primary against you. Meaning the stage was set as long ago as 2018 for me to be driven to do this, but my gosh, if I trust
He's
who's
doing the
already
job.
there, you know, why disrupt that just to pat myself on the back or say, I want this job?
Yeah.
I feel drawn to this because I think the district needs me.
And it's really we were talking the other night about how things just happen and work out, and the fact that this is a brand new district with a more congealed of commonality between
Right,
these
I
areas.
mean,
It's a great opportunity for the area and for you if you do win.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think I'll say this: you won't be disappointed in voting for me. I might not be able to get everything done we want to. I won't be the stereotypical politician that's, you vote for me and I'm going to do this, this, and this, and that. I'm one guy down there.
Yeah. It all, like with your donations though, it all adds up. It's like I tell
absolutely is.
people, it's like that monstrosity probably is still going to be pressing on you, but you're just another little stick in their cock.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And again, being in with the background I do have, you know, in business and running marketing and also
Military.
you know, military and my public service at both the city and county levels, is I have a tendency to be a little bit influential with other people too, you know. And guess what? I do it factually based. You know, other
Back
people
to
in the party.
information.
Yeah, back to information, getting back to people within that party is, hey, we have to unite here, you know, and guess what? If we all find common ground, which we were all elected to have one common ground, and that's the Constitution of the state of Michigan and the Constitution of the United States. Guys, we can work together on that, you know. Probably one of the most upheavaled presidency in the history of the United States was Abraham Lincoln. My gosh, what a decision he had to make.
Yeah.
Civil War.
Yeah.
Okay, to do what's right.
And huge decisions. And
To do what's right.
Unfortunately,
And follow the Constitution.
I think President Trump missed some opportunities.
Sure.
That would have been more Lincoln-like, and maybe we would be in a better place.
Sure, absolutely. You know, and again, back to electing, you know, policy over personality. You know, gosh, I mean, so many people had such an animated hate for Donald Trump, and not even know why.
Well, it was constructed because when he announced I am a libertarian and worked as a consultant for the Ohio Libertarian Party.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I told you the story.
Yeah.
The problem with libertarians, they're always trying to win the governorship, the lieutenant governorship, the secretary of state, and they have no money but lots of time, and they're just throwing what little of both you have away, and was encouraging them, you know, get on the school boards, the township councils, even the planning committees, non-elected stuff, use your resources for that. But if you're dead set on winning the governorship in Ohio, you have to get like a Chris Spielman, star from the Lions and Ohio State University, or get Michael Stanley from the Michael Stanley Band, because they're the ones that are going to be able to get any media coverage, because every time you run as a third party, the press won't even mention your candidate. So when Donald Trump announced, I mean, everybody loves Donald Trump. He's on Celebrity Roast. He's got his TV show. Hollywood loves him. I go even people that eat chips and watch Jerry Springer on repeat all day long know who Donald Trump is, and he had a positive rating as a celebrity in America, and they destroyed that in a year. It's like, again, do you remember when Snoop Dogg was battling with him? And oh my, did you ever go online and find the roast of Donald Trump?
No.
So, you talk about grabbing by stuff, oh my gosh, or listen to some of his Howard Stern interviews. I think it's the reason why that did not affect him. It's like, he's already talked about this on Howard Stern. He's already been roasted about it. It's like, yeah, tell me something new.
Right.
Tell me something.
Yeah. But yeah, you're absolutely right with that. And the demonization that came along with that. Why? Out of the fear of exposing the corruption. You know, the government.
I mean, when was the last time there was a presidential debate and one of the candidates turned to the other and said, you should be in jail, and then he wins? You're petrified.
Yeah.
You're petrified.
One of the greatest things that came out of his presidency was him coming in and pulling the curtain back on the whole facade. And when you talk about even the division in the Republican Party, is how many of the rats scurried off the ship as soon as he did that, you know.
Unfortunately, during his presidency, a lot of the rats stayed on and tried to make themselves look like puppy dogs.
Yeah.
Or, well, yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. Some of them did that, and other ones just, you know, straight up just jumped on the hate machine. You know, the propaganda hate machine that existed through those 4 years, which is just, you know, people say, oh my gosh, you know, he was on Twitter, and if he would have just stayed off Twitter, my gosh, it was the only avenue he had to get a message out. Was he going to get a fair shake?
You can get a message to Kim Jong-un, like, instantly. You don't have to arrange a special call to the State Department and all this scream. No, you just
know?
send out a tweet. Don't do anything or we're going to destroy you.
Yeah.
You know, any minute.
Yeah.
And the fact that he went and met with the guy twice, that's why he was different.
Right.
When he stepped across that line,
Wow, wasn't that something?
if that was not him and any other president, what a great, glorious moment. This is a place where people have been killed before. And
There'd be posters, you know, of that historic moment in time.
And then,
you know,
peace in the Middle East, like,
you know,
I mean, he was that close to getting Israel and Saudi Arabia to
four
do it.
different deals going there. You know, we had energy.
I ask people now, during the campaign, did you know Donald Trump's got peace deals with Israel and some countries in the Middle East? No. Never heard of it. I'm like, yeah, I did with this and this and this. They're like, he did not. It's like, they doubt me. It's like, here's a newspaper story. Well, that's a Gazette press, and I don't care, it's a fact.
Yeah.
No, they just had no knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, again, to see that animosity for not getting your way. The tantrums that were thrown. And hey, do I agree with everything the president said
No.
on Twitter? But guess what? A lot of times too, when we talked about that misconstrued
I don't agree with things I see
text,
on Twitter sometimes.
right? But that text message and things that get taken out of context the same way. You know, he didn't have the media outlets as many do that would allow him to put his message out in the way he needed to or wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, and then the fact they removed him from Twitter, right at the height. I mean, talk about meddling. You know, what if Donald Trump had got Hillary Clinton kicked off of Twitter and Facebook
Right.
in 2016?
It's just, yeah, the double standard, you know, and the proverbial swamp and everything that's happening, all drives really where we need to, not just, you know, the mantra, you know, we're going to take our country back. I'm hoping we don't have to take our country back. That's why I'm running, why we still have a country, you know, and we still have a sovereign state of Michigan in the federal government. So yes, I'm running for state representative of the 99th district.
Well, thank you for coming in.
I appreciate it.
Website again, so folks can give their $10. Make it 12. Put a tip in.
Make it 12. Pay for the administration costs that come with that $10.
You can local up. I always think that we should do a hashtag campaign in our little community. It's called local up. And you just leave your change, not for the next person that needs change, but hey, if something's $11.05, you know, you give them the 70, but it goes right to the local business, so they could local up $2.
Well, you know what? It's funny you say the Taco Bell drive-through, at least in Standish anyway, they're doing that for a scholarship fund. For
Rogers
Taco Bell.
across the street, when you
Hey,
check
would you like
out,
to
it's
round
not
that?
for a national charity, it's for somebody local.
Yeah, so would you like to round your $12.92 up to $13, you know, to go into our scholarship? You know, and I asked the person in the drive-thru is, you know, what's the percentage? How many people are actually rounding their bill up? He says about 50-50.
Really? Okay, that's
Yeah.
I think it's local makes it. I know. It's like, isn't that a weird predicament to put you in? You want to, you know, and it's like, who's this charity? I don't know. But then if you say no, it's like it's a few pennies. So, but I usually don't. But every time they're running the local one, I do.
Yeah.
Because I know right where the money's going.
Yeah. Well, you know, and again, like you said,
Like, I know Bill on the Lions Club or Jerry at the
you either
JC.
feel like a heel for not doing it, or it just becomes a common response. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's 72 cents. make it happen.
Like gas station. Would you like a car wash today? No. I want to pump gas.
I'm tired of putting all the pennies in the cup holder in my truck and not being able to put my coffee in there.
Right.
Okay.
Or it falls over.
So,
it was a pleasure having you.
That website,
yes.
votemhoadly.com, and there is more information about me. Again, we talk about the big issues is what defines us as a candidate, but know that my experience has me more than fine-tuned into what our local issues are. And there's a secured link on there for making a donation as much as $1 to, I think the maximum for an individual contribution is $1,050. So
okay.
Anywhere between there is just fine.
Yeah, don't think you're just limited to 10. If you have that amount, just go ahead and send that in. So give the website again, and it's
Vote M. Hoadly.
It's spelled Hoadly for folks. You got the E between the L and the
L-E-Y, yeah, H-O-A-D-L-E-Y.
And it's M as in Michael. Vote M. Hoadly. Are you on Twitter or Getter, or what's? How do they just search you on Facebook?
Facebook. There's a Facebook page, and of course that has a link to the website, as well as common posts there. I should say more current posts of what's going on. Along with being endorsed by President Trump, I'm also endorsed by the Aranet County Sheriff Jim Mississippi, who's been very involved and been the sheriff and law enforcement there since the 70s. So,
yeah. Well, Mike, all the cool America Firsters are getting on Getter, and I just checked. There's the Vote M. Hoadly name is available.
I'm gonna have to
vote,
do that.
Or Mike for Michigan's available. Vote for Mike's available.
I'll have to eat them all up, right?
There you go. Oh yeah, you never know. I've done opposition stuff where we reserved those websites in those. Yeah.
Exactly.
Stir them to another contribution. Hey, it's part of the business, folks. Sorry. It's been a pleasure having you down here.
Likewise, I do.
Meetings of the mayors. You're the first one. I think I'm going to reach out to some other government units and their leaders.
Well, you should, because again, this type of public outreach, grassroots outreach to the people, to meet the candidate, because guess what? I'm heading out to all of the townships and city halls throughout our 99th district, which I think I told you earlier is roughly 65 or 66 of them. So come see me at a town hall meeting and ask some questions. But by all means, go to my website and ask those questions. There's a link there for asking and leaving comments.
And you really reply, and the real person answers.
It'll be me.
That's awesome.
It will be me.
That is awesome.
Well, thanks again, Dirk.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to put to the executive committee that we do allow Aranet County to enter into the 4-county, thus making it a 5-county area.
I appreciate that. We're honored to be on board.
Well, and it's like, small grassroots reaching out. It's one of the reasons we're sitting here in this, little cheap studio with some very inexpensive equipment. I mean, to be able to do this sort of thing, I told people 15 years ago when I started streaming online, I said, to be able to do this 20 years ago, it would literally cost tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, we're broadcasting worldwide right now. You'd need satellite uplinks and everything.
And I believe in that.
Local radio's not being done anymore either, because they're all bought up.
And I believe in that so much too. Is get a hold of me on Facebook or my website. If you want to have a little meet and greet in your living room, and you've got a couple dozen friends and family members, and you want to be able to have an in-person meet and greet with Mike Hoadly, get a hold of me. I live for talking to the people and finding out what drives you and what issues
that's a great idea. That'd be nice.
What matters? What matters to you? And the only place where you'll find me argue is if it goes against
principles.
Well, not only principle, but the Constitution.
And the law.
What the actual
shocking.
The role of the government.
Radical congressional candidate wants to follow the laws of the state and the townships and the Constitution. Crazy man.
There you go. Crazy.
Well, I'm glad people got to meet you, and I'm glad that we conducted the interview this way so people were able to listen to who you are.
Me too. Yeah, and that's key. Is just getting a real look, without a script, without a speech, but it's just asking questions and conversation.
And we didn't have to pause for commercials, and then we weren't limited on time, which is another blessing about being on the podcast.
I would have ran a campaign commercial. this message has been approved by Mike Hoadley for state representative.
When I go out there, what I do when I edit this, I'll clap and wave at the camera so then at the track line I can just
So you
find.
know, right?
Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
being here. Our first, I think this is the first in studio, like legitimate use of the new facility. So
Great.
Thanks for being easy with it.
Hey, absolutely. I'll come back again if I'm invited.
Oh, definitely.